Hey everybody, it's January 28th. That means we are reading John chapter 20, verses 1 through 18. So we're reading the resurrection. And I know as Christians, we've read this a million times, we've heard a million sermons, we've heard a bajillion Easter sermons. And so as a pastor, in this kind of circumstance, you have to say, what can I add new? What is there something that that I can tell you guys that you guys already haven't heard a million times, or that um, but the events happen. All right, he was dead. We know Mary Magdalene. She's the first ones there. We see a foot race between Peter and John. Of course, John wins because Peter is the kind of the older, bigger, fatter guy, which is just kind of a little funny kind of story in the middle of this resurrection story. But there's a couple things, right? It says that they're running past and they had to stop and look in. And one of the things that I never knew until I went to Israel when I went to go see the Garden Tomb is that every other tomb that has been excavated in Israel is that from the door of the tomb, you look into where the burial is. So you could be on the outside and look exactly where the dead bodies were laying inside the tomb. But the one tomb that doesn't do that in all of Jerusalem is the Garden Tomb, where they think Jesus was buried. And from the door, you look into the preparation room, and then the burial room is off to the right. So you actually have to stop and kind of stick your head in and look to the right to be able to see where the people are buried, which is very interesting. To say that the tomb that they found, that they think is the Garden Tomb, gives a little bit more light that it is the Garden Tomb and gives more light to this biblical story. So it's not that they could see Jesus from outside. They had to stop, stick their head in, go inside, go in. And so we see that Peter goes in first. John follows. They see the cloths that he would have been wrapped in, embalmed in. And then they run away. But what's interesting is Mary stays, right? And the angels come to her. And I've heard a million sermons. I've read a million books. I've probably said in many of my sermons. But it's interesting to me that Jesus sends angels to Mary, right? Not to Peter, not to John, not the ones who were brave, the ones who went into the tomb, not the ones who were his disciples, but he sent angels to comfort Mary and to give her the information that he is coming back, and to go and tell the disciples. And I think this is just something pretty amazing that in that time we've seen through the whole book of John that Jesus, um, he's a rule breaker. He is a culture changer. In a culture where women were nothing, they were insignificant, they were basically property, they were nobody. Jesus is the one who elevated women to a status, elevated people to something that was amazing. And we see this even after his resurrection, right? After his resurrection, the angels didn't come to the men, but it came to the women. It came to Mary, and Mary went and told the disciples the good news because they hadn't understood everything that it was happening, which is just just an amazing fact. It's a cultural fact. It's something that Jesus does is that even after his death, even after his burial, even after his resurrection, Jesus is still loving on those who were not loved. I think this is just a great point for us that we can maybe hold on today, right? That we as Christians are called to love those who are not loved, and to share the love with them. And I think that's just a really good insight we can take away from this resurrection story. Don't forget today's prayer focus is all of our teachers. I know with COVID it's been crazy, but our small groups are going to start back on February the 7th, and our kids and our students and even adults. We're going to kind of go back to the same plan that we were doing during the Christmas story, kind of the large Sunday school classes for adults, but kids and youth are back to normal. So be praying about that. Be praying for those leaders, those teachers who study, who spend all week kind of studying and reaching, even through these times where we've had to pause. They're still studying, they're still learning, because there's still a curriculum that they must know and understand to go through. And so be praying for those teachers, for those leaders. Be praying for new leaders and new teachers. Maybe God is doing something in this COVID that maybe he's leading somebody else into leadership, and maybe in the kids ministry, maybe in the student ministry, maybe even in the adult senior ministry. Who knows? But be praying for those leaders as they are getting ready and will continue on to disciple the rest of us, rest of our generations, our kids, our students, us as adults. Just be praying for them. Guys, you got 2 more days. I know you can do it. Stay strong, and we will see you tomorrow. God bless.